of course, the Registrar, Intellectual Property Office, Ministry of Justice, St. Kitts. Is Jihan, right? Jihan
Gian,
Williams?
yes,
Jihan,
Gian.
yes. We have a couple
You got
minutes.
the J right. The J is the hardest part. So once you got the J right,
Fantastic.
but it's pronounced like a G. Yes, Gian.
So we have a couple of minutes before we get to the news at 7, and I think we could take this opportunity to get to learn some more about each other's country. I've been to St. Kitts, Jay. I've been there twice. The
Right?
capital is Bastyr is the capital, right?
Bastyr, yes,
Right,
Bastyr.
right. And I remember staying in a hotel right there in the capital. I remember the kind of roundabout. There's a kind of almost like a some kind
The
of
circus clock, the Berkeley
right. The clock.
Memorial.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
gosh, you were here a long time ago.
That not there no more.
No,
Don't joke.
no,
Okay, hold on,
no.
hold on.
You
So,
have so many more options to explore next time you
so,
come back.
so I remember going across to Nevis, to the capital there, if I recall, Charlestown, right? Charlestown.
Yes,
And I
yes.
went by the beach. There was a Rasta man selling a drink called, was it the Killer Bee or the something?
Killer B, you went to Sunshine.
Sunshine, right? With the Rasta man with Beyonce
Yes,
picture.
you
Yeah.
went to Sunshine.
That's when I realized.
World renowned Sunshine.
That's when I
Yes.
realized Beyonce and Jay-Z were together, because he had a picture with them up in the bar and they weren't public yet with their relationship. And I remember going by the Rasta there and having his world famous Killer Bee. But the name of
Killer
the,
Bee, yes. The Killer
yes,
Bee is internationally known.
I
And
think
it's still there.
he's
So
still there.
you could find your way.
He's still there.
You could find your way back. Yep. It's still there.
Wow. Now I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevis is so quiet. I remember driving around one traffic light, the only one there in the capital, and then seeing the monkeys crossing the road and seeing this big mountain there in the middle. Is that mountain volcanic? Is that a volcanic mountain?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Is
is.
it active?
No, it hasn't been. We have one in St. Kitts and one in Nevis. Neither have been active for many years, of course, but with everything happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it has gotten the attention of persons. So we've seen maps and safe zones and what would be our safe zones
Okay,
and
okay, okay.
the red zones and so on. But the entire island of Nevis is actually would be a red zone because of that volcano.
Wow.
So it's something that we are mindful of because of what is happening. But of course, I would even take this opportunity to express prayers and thoughts and concerns to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm in touch with the registrar for the Intellectual Property Office there. And, they're going through some harrowing times right now. And we really, as a region, have to come together to support them in this particular time. So even in relation to things like that, you could see that our intellectual property network is very strong, and
It
we
is.
are, hearing about what happens to each other, even where it does not relate to intellectual property.
Indeed. Before we go, for folks looking at the show this morning and hearing about St. Kitts and Nevis, and probably they've never been, when the borders are open and we are past this pandemic, why should we
Sure,
take that
let's have a
trip?
killer bee. Let's have a killer bee. Sure.
Yeah,
And there's so much more to see now. So since it sounds like you've been here a long time ago.
yeah. Last time would
So
have been like 2000 and probably 2009. It's been a while.
it has been. So see you soon.
Definitely. We'll touch base.
Yes.
All the
But
best then.
thank you so much. And of course, I want to say thank you to the UNESCO Mill Alliance for organizing for me to do this interview this morning.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do so, and again use the opportunity to encourage persons in Trinidad and Tobago to connect with the Trinidad and Tobago Intellectual Property Office for more information. Persons in St. Kitts and Nevis could always visit our office as well, our website ipo.gov.kn. But
Indeed.
for today, let's celebrate the books. Let's celebrate our creativity and the fact that we are such an amazing set of talented people. And we should really protect and monitor our works to ensure that it stays ours, because it's really our identity. So just want to leave with that message and encouraging people to read, encouraging people to write, and to really see that that work as valuable property.
Well said.
You're tuning in FM is 90.9. You're listening there to Ms. Jehan Williams, Registrar, Intellectual Property Office, Ministry of Justice, Legal Affairs and Communications in Kitts and Nevis, speaking, of course, to the Trinidad media about today's significance in the context of copyright, World Book and Copyright Day, the Latin American and Caribbean Regional Chapter of the UNESCO Mill Alliance, and WSN Content Capital commemorate World Book Day and World Book and Copyright Day 2021 with a series of interviews, and that one was done earlier this morning, just around, I think it was around 6:30 this morning. So we wanted to play that for you so you can hear some of the discussions about copyright, about World Book Day, the importance of books. And of course, our phone lines are open, 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. If you are a book person, you'd like to share with us your thoughts and your experiences with books or not, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, Voices comes your way with the very best wishes of Flow, Rams Trading, and TDC Group of Companies.
Broadband and TV is packed with even more value as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
When the star them there, we are top man, we take charge. Magnum we drink and we are shell down bars. Blast like a star with some Galapagos. Overdo it, we take it too far. Take charge, take charge.
We are hot gal, we set the trend. Magnum we drink for the top man them. Wine with the style, no stop from spend. Hot blend, back bend, and take charge, take charge.
Magnum tonic wine for the real star them. Take charge, take charge. Must be 18 or older, drink responsibly.
Enjoy the green life with TDC Home and Building Depots. Purchase select eco-friendly products and get 20% in savings. Celebrate Earth Week with us from the 19th through the 24th. Shop in store with your green bag or online and get even more green savings. This April, live green. Think TDC Home and Building Depots. Terms and conditions apply. Offer good while stocks last. See stores for details.
You tune in with FM, it's 90.9 on your dial. Yesterday had a very interesting forum. I'm looking at the issue of ICT Girls Day. ICT Girls Day, Information and Communications Technology, ICT, looking at women, girls in ICT, of course, looking to boost the numbers in ICT. And a forum yesterday, moderated by Janelle Lake, introduced some young women who have done extremely well in ICT and offer their own testimonies that can prove inspirational to people who are listening. We want to play a little bit of that for you right here on Voices. Voices where you have choices, right here on Win FM 90.9, operating out of Bastyr, St. Kitts and Nevis.
In today's session, girls will be learning from women influencers in ICT like myself. I want to make sure our audience didn't miss that. We are live at the Innovation Hub in St. Kitts, utilizing the innovation and the technologies that are available to us through the Ministry of Information and Communications Technologies. My name is Janelle Lake. I am a woman in ICT, as I mentioned before, and I will be moderating today's live dialogue. I am joined by a number of exceptional women in ICT and users of ICT from various sectors within our own federation. Not experts from abroad, our own women in ICT. I really want to emphasize this point because representation in technology is important. I see Tawana nodding her head. I like that.
Definitely.
Representation of women in technology is important. Local representation of women in technology is priceless, especially as the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has shared a plan to pursue an agenda of digital transformation, an undertaking which calls for involvement of all sectors and one which requires that we all embrace technology. And speaking of government, I would like to introduce today's illustrious panel. I was going to begin with the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, an accomplished and credentialed technology professional in her own right, who now serves as our Minister of Information and Communication Technologies, et al., but she's chairing a regional meeting and could not join us. I will now introduce this lovely lady on my right, Ms. Tawana Finch. She currently, I'm sorry. She currently serves as a systems analyst within the Ministry of Information and Communication Technologies in the e-government unit. Ms. Finch is also a graphic designer and web developer. She will be representing the public sector in today's discussion, but we hope she will add some of her experiences as a graphic designer and web developer just to shake things up a bit. Please let us welcome Ms. Finch with a round of applause. Our next panelist is Ms. Anastasia Elliott, the CEO of Sugartown Organics, a company which seeks to create sustainable alternatives to boost nutrition and minimize crop loss. Most notably, Sugartown Organics is fully e-commerce friendly and utilizes several digital payment options. I understand that Ms. Elliott, here to represent from an entrepreneurial standpoint, has indicated that these digital platforms help to keep Sugartown Organics alive when things dried up on account of the pandemic. And I'm really looking forward to hearing her views on technology today, because she's an entrepreneur who had the good sense and the vision to embrace technology to ensure business resilience. Please let us welcome Ms. Elliott. I really want us to give this next panelist a very warm and welcoming round of applause. Ms. Asia Clark was only just this morning asked to join us on the panel, and she didn't really need a lot of convincing. She knew that she had a duty to the rest of women in IT and aspiring girls in ICT to come up here and tell us her story. So allow me to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Asia Clark, a student at the Technical and Vocational Educational and Management Studies, currently pursuing IT. This is a division of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. Ms. Clark is also a member of the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotics Association, an association that's very near and dear to my heart, so I'm so glad she's here to represent that today. And I look forward to hearing her views, as they are representative of the young women like herself and these young women present today, the ones that we hope to appeal to, inspire, and encourage. Please let us welcome Ms. Clark. Thank you. So with the introductions out of the way, let us get into the meat of the matter. Just so everyone understands the run of play, I will pose questions to our panelists just to help to advance the discussion. These questions will be along the lines of their experiences in tech, what made them embrace tech, whether it is as a career or as a vehicle to further their business or to see to the success of their business. And then in between the questions, we'll open the floor to questions at intervals. And then towards the end of the session, we will open the floor, we'll end and open the floor fully to questions so that you could benefit from us being here. So I think an appropriate place to begin is to kind of get a sense of how our panelists got their start in technology. I know for me, I was mentioning it to the panelists at the start of the discussion. For me, my launching pad in technology was essentially by virtue of the fact that my father had the good sense to leave an old computer lying around the house. It's unfair for me to call the computer old now because it was probably the latest and greatest and the most cutting-edge thing in the world at the time, but you know, this is how many years later. So it was, I could remember it well, it was a beige, compact computer. It was huge. It was nothing like this tiny device you see here. And between my sister and myself, we used to pretend that we were running at a doctor's office. And so we used to use this old computer to manage our patients. So the computer was our patient management system. We used to register when they attended, like when they came to visit the doctor, what the various ailments were. And from that experience, that early experience with an old computer, there was no internet, by the way. I just want to make that clear. There was no internet. It was just the computer and the tools available on that computer. That was it. So based on that experience, it kind of whet my appetite for technology. And from that moment, I pursued every opportunity to get exposed to technology. So I did IT when I was in high school. I did IT when I was in Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. There was the IT program that you have now, it actually was not there when I was there. So I was in the IT program at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College main campus. And from there, it propelled me into pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and a Master's in Information Systems Management. And now I'm seated in Information Security. So I kind of want to throw this question out to my panelists. What got you started in technology? Because I want to know if the stories that you have to share are similar to mine. So Tawana, start us off. How did you get into technology?
Hi, good morning. So it's similar to Janelle's background. My father was into technology, and therefore he influenced me to pursue that interest. He would build computers from scratch. We had PlayStations and Xbox and any console you could think of when I was your age, and he would fix them because we had a store where we sold video games and music CDs and all of these things, and he would influence me to actually learn how to fix game systems, and eventually I grew an interest in that because I was exposed to so many things. I had a pager back then. I don't know if you all even know what a pager is.
You were really up to the time.
Yes. I had BlackBerry phone, I had a Razor phone, I had any technology you can think of, and it always interested me. So after high school, I went to CFBC College, where I pursued IT as one of my courses, and after that, I began working for the government of St. Kitts as a programmer at the age of 18. And from there, I used to develop websites and any other IT duty you can think about. And then after working for 5 years after CFB as a programmer, I went off to university where I studied management of information systems. I returned 3 years ago, and now I'm seated back into government in the public sector where I'm a systems analyst. So I've always been around IT. Like, that is my baby. That is something that I truly enjoy. I enjoy change. I enjoy innovation, and I constantly want to learn things. And IT is about learning every day. And I'm also very creative, so IT is about creativity and problem solving. So there are so many different factors why I chose IT.
Before we go down to Anastasia, I just want to highlight that what Tawana spoke to as some of the themes that I hope come out in the discussion today. Wanting to be involved, being exposed to technology. I think we are poster children for what the benefits of putting technology in the hands of children. Of course, there's more that comes along with just putting the technology in the hands of children. There must be structured learning in place as well. But I think it begins with just making technology available, letting children explore their curiosities, letting children expand their horizons. And I really think that, I hope that comes out in our discussions today. Anastasia, let's hear from you, please.
Okay, so my story is a little bit different. In high school, I had picked up IT. It had just been introduced into the high school. Growing up, I was in a space where we didn't have cell phones. We just had a phone. We wanted to talk to the phone. You had to pull this long line, right?
I remember quite well.
Yes. And so going into high school, I think we came to that period where we were getting the pagers and then the BlackBerry phones, the Razors, those flip phones. And I said to my mother when I picked up IT that I would like to get a computer so that I could do my work at home. And she said to me, well, I ain't buying none. I will buy you the parts so you can put the thing together. So I said, okay. And that is how I learned from doing that, how to work a computer, putting these parts together, figuring out what goes where, how to get things to connect so that it works the way you want it to work, right? And so I had that, and without any teaching. I couldn't go to my teacher and ask him because they were teaching us the basics of programming, how to work Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, that kind of thing, not actually to build a computer. And so I had to figure that out on my own with a little help from her because she was technology minded at the time because she was in the military. Yeah. And that kind of started me on that path to technology. I was always business minded. So in school, technology was just an adjunct to business, something that I could see might matter later down the road, but at the time it was fairly new. And so it was learning that, and then as I grew along, thinking of what I wanted to do in business, the thing that would matter, the thing that would get me to where I wanted to be. Because for me, business wasn't something that I just wanted to focus on singers, because it's a very small population. Right. I wanted something that could transcend borders, right, and could reach people no matter where they were in the world. And so for me, technology was that avenue to do that. And so as I grew, I learned all the different skills that I thought I needed. So learning how to do graphic design. I took a job in graphic design to learn that. I worked in media to learn how to communicate on the web. I took these different jobs so I could learn these skills so that I could do them myself, right, in my business, so that I could grow at a pace that I could control. And so for me, as a woman in NTC, I didn't have a lot of backlash. You could say, like, people telling me I couldn't do it because, again, I didn't broadcast that I was doing it. I just did it. And so for me, it's very important for girls to get these skills from very early on, because it helps them to direct the path that they're on, as opposed to somebody directing it for them. And in my families, we're very big on a woman not working for someone else, but working for herself. So she doesn't have to be bombarded by a lot of the things that women are exposed to in the workplace, especially working for men. And so for me, ICT is very important in that space.
So again, I see that you too are a poster child for the benefits of putting technology in the hands of children, because you said your mother, she said, I'm not buying your computer. She gave you what you needed to build your own computer, you built it, and you also touched on something that I hope we discuss more today, which is technology expands horizons, it opens up the world to us, it is a vehicle that could take you places, because you mentioned, rightly so, that you knew that you needed technology in order to reach a broader market beyond St. Kitts and Nevis.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
Gift for Dad's birthday? Click. Ooh, Janice's retirement party? Click. Outfit for my girl's wedding? Click.
With TDC Airbox, you click, we ship. Register for your free U.S. mailbox today and shop all your favorite stores online. Enjoy the convenience. Free consolidation up to 10 pounds. Competitive rates. Free package tracking account with live notifications. Free delivery and, of course, excellent customer service. Visit our website at tdcairbox.com and register today. For more information, visit our offices at the C.A. Paul Industrial Site in St. Kitts and Penny's Industrial Site in Nevis. Follow us on social media at TDC Airbox. TDC Airbox. You click, we ship. Terms and conditions apply.
You need a drink? Have a Viva, Viva. You want some fun? Get a Viva, Viva. Taste the flavor, have a Viva, Viva. Oh yeah, Viva is the one. Say goodbye to boring. Let me hear you sing. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better.
Viva sparkling flavored water. Water, but better.
Flow Broadband and TV is packed with even more value, as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Here to the Win FM is 90.9, so you're listening there to the forum, ICT Girls Day, a forum held to discuss the issues of really encouraging more women, young, older women, to get involved in ICT. And of course, a number of activities still will continue. You're going to have on Monday, April 26th, the focus is on graphic design, girls in ICT logo design. On Tuesday, April 27th, interacting, vlogging explores how does it ICT, and well, how does ICT affect my life? And so let me do that again for you. On Tuesday, April 27th, an interactive vlogging that explores how does ICT affect my life. On Wednesday, April 28th, look at the field of robotics, promoting girls can do robotics, And the final day social media Girls in ICT TikTok Challenge on Friday, 29th April. And of course today, World Book and Copyright Day. You heard from Ms. Jehan Williams a bit earlier on, the Registrar, Intellectual Property Office, Ministry of Justice, Legal Affairs and Communications in Kitts and Nevis. Stay tuned, we've got the headline news coming right up.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and Development Bank.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Everyone struggles at times. Even we too have our own struggles. Do you have a loan at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and have fallen behind on your payments because of financial difficulties? Have your financial situation changed? If your answer is yes, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis or call 465-2288, extension 1101 or 469-5416 to make an appointment to discuss our debt evaluation and restructuring plan with one of our qualified officers. We are committed to working with you to make a sustained positive difference in your life.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet.
Thursday's Spotlight on Mother Earth aimed to build greater awareness of the challenges facing the only place humans call home.
issues of global warming and climate change that leads to droughts, ferocious storms, warmer seas, air and water pollution, waste disposal, and ozone depletion are in the headlines. The use of single-use plastics has been a problem in the past, but has now taken on new significance as nations battle COVID-19 with personal protective equipment. In St. Kitts and Nevis, the Solid Waste Management Corporation has a stellar record of garbage collection, but illegal dumping of garbage by residents and businesses still persist, posing a threat to the environment. Public education programs continue even as discussions on the future of the landfill in Connery, and officials have held consultations on reducing the dependency on a material that poses a clear threat to the marine environment. This report from PBS chronicles some of the issues in the USA that might mirror our own challenges.
While carbon emissions and climate change are front and center, this is a good moment to look at another major environmental problem. As the world has become hyper-hygienic since the pandemic began, plastic is playing an oversized role. Stephanie Sa looks at how the single-use nature of many pandemic items are piling up in our landfills and in our environment.
They're the one item we now know helps stop the spread of COVID-19, face masks. They come in different shapes and sizes, and many are disposable. Over the past year, they've become an important part of living safely in the middle of a pandemic. Around the world, 129 billion are used every single month, and 3 million are thrown out every single minute. Most are made of layers of plastic microfibers. It's creating a new kind of plastic pollution, contaminating waterways and hurting wildlife. Maria Algara is the founder of Clean This Beach Up in Miami.
Let's see what we can collect in a couple of blocks in South Beach.
At the beginning of the pandemic, she found she had to expand her cleanup beyond the beach. She started the Glove Challenge, asking people around the world to tag places they found latex gloves littered. The results came flooding in. And before long, single-use face masks were strewn everywhere too.
Every single cleanup that we do on a shoreline, we're collecting from 50 to 100 masks.
To see just how easy it is to spot pandemic pollution, we asked our NewsHour staff to keep their eyes open for it. From Washington, D.C. to California, they shared videos and photos of this new kind of litter.
Why is the mask pollution particularly concerning to you?
It's not just about the fact that masks are not biodegradable or recyclable. It's about the fact that they are a hazard for our wildlife. Not just because they can eat the mask, but also because animals get entangled in the straps. Poor guy.
Algara and her team found a mask twisted around a puffer fish. Birds are getting caught up in them, and marine life are eating them.
So if I needed to dispose of this mask, Maria, do you have advice on how I could do that to minimize harm to animals and the environment?
The idea is to dispose of your mask properly, put it in the bin, but also remember to cut or rip off the straps. That will be saving so many lives.
Jenna Jambek has made a career out of studying the waste we create.
We are the top waste generator by country and per person in the world.
The University of Georgia professor is currently driving and camping the length of the Mississippi River with her husband and 2 kids, all the while hunting for plastic debris. It's part of an initiative started by mayors of cities along the river to reduce plastic pollution by 20%. Jambek brought her scientific expertise and, as a fellow at National Geographic, a network of educators. One way they're helping is with data. The Marine Debris Tracker is an app that lets people log exactly what they're finding and where. And like Maria Algara noticed on the ground in Miami, Jambek said it didn't take long for reports of PPE in the environment to roll in.
Including masks, gloves, and wipes, we've seen over 11,500 items reported through just our app alone. I just think it's so reflective of sort of our actions and our activities and what we use on a daily basis. Some of that leaks out, and we sort of immediately pretty much saw that through this system.
And why and how are these things making their way into the environment?
So you go to the grocery store, you're using a disposable mask, you go in and you need it, the whole time you're shopping and you come out and let's say you had a mask and gloves and then you're like, well, these are dirty now. What do I do with them? And that sort of speaks to how we make and use things as well. We often don't think about end of life, meaning what do we do when we need to dispose of anything in the environment? It just really came to light, I think, through the PPE that we were wearing.
And it's not just medical protective gear that's adding to pandemic pollution. Many busy families balancing homeschool and work from home schedules in the last year relied on endless days and nights of takeout.
The leftovers shelf.
Much of it, including my family's, comes in plastic containers with single-use utensils.
I saw a lot of to-go packaging, to-go like clamshells, both foam and plastic, plastic bags, plastic bottles.
In some cases, places overcompensated on individual plastic packaging, believing it would prevent COVID from spreading. But many of these containers aren't recyclable. And in the U.S., we recycle less than 9% of the plastic we use. One company based outside Phoenix, Arizona, Footprint, is trying to disrupt the plastic packaging industry. CEO and co-founder Troy Swope showed us around.
To take waste to make something that only has a very short useful life, this is the best option for the planet.
The containers are made of plant-based fiber, including wood the company says is sourced from sustainable forests. Swope says they are compostable and biodegradable. Their biggest client is ConAgra, which uses Footprint containers for some of its brands. Takeout salad company Sweetgreen is a big client, and even McDonald's is testing out some of their lids.
To compete with plastic food packaging, Footprint tests its containers for durability. This simple experiment looks at whether the oil from the salad dressing bleeds through the product.
The key for why it doesn't, Swope says, is a proprietary coating they literally bake in and they claim is free of harmful chemicals.
Number one, we focus on being plastic free. And the importance of that is at the end of life. We wanted something that had multiple end of life options. So the best way to put it is we wanted something nature could digest. So at the end of the day, if you just left it on the side of the road or got in an ocean, it would just disappear without being toxic to animals or to the water.
Do your products cost the same as the plastic alternative?
We designed everything to be cost competitive with plastic. So from day one, we wanted to have a massive impact on the planet. So at day one, we said we were going to have to develop the technologies to compete with plastic, not only in performance, but in price.
But it's not just where a product ends up that matters. It's how it begins. Energy and water go into manufacturing, even of biodegradable packaging like Footprints that boast lower carbon emissions.
Alternative materials are definitely going to be part of the integrated approach, I think, to this. But we don't necessarily also just want to switch all of the single use over to that. We would, I think we would like to reduce, quantities first still if we can.
And ultimately, says Maria Algara, change will be driven by what each of us demands of government, corporations, and ourselves.
We could clean every single beach, every shoreline in the world, and that won't stop plastic pollution. The change starts with us and our choices and our consumption.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Stephanie Tsai.
That report from PBS aired on Thursday.
In this edition of the Caribbean News Roundup, additional health restrictions imposed in Trinidad and Tobago. St. Vincent's International Airport to reopen on Saturday. Dominica imposes heavy fines on 19 Indian nationals for overstaying. One Caribbean leader warns that small tourism countries are feeling the brunt of the climate change impact, and why Jamaican nurses are demotivated. The news coming right up. The word from part of Spain, stricter restrictions are now in effect for Trinidad and Tobago following a spike in positive cases of COVID-19. The government defended its decision to add further health restrictions for a limited period as COVID-19 cases continue to climb. The restrictions will remain in effect until May 16. They include the prohibition of public gatherings for concerts and entertainment. Here's how TTT News announced the measure.
Churches will have to reduce their capacity to 25%. However, services will remain at 90 minutes. These are among the new restrictions announced by Minister of Health Terence Dayal Singh on Wednesday at the ministry's virtual COVID-19 press conference. Kimberly D'Souza tells us more.
Chief among the new restrictions announced by Minister of Health Terence Dayal Singh at Wednesday's COVID-19 update is a reduction in capacity from 50% to 25% for religious gatherings.
We make a special appeal that in places of worship where you attend your prayers, keep on your masks at all times. Do not take off your masks for any reason. And once your services or prayers are finished, please don't congregate. Please go home.
The health minister also announced that weddings and funerals will be limited to 10 persons and there will be no public gatherings for entertainment events and concerts. The new restrictions also extend to the public service, which will revert to 50% capacity on a rotational basis.
This will have the effect of taking a few tens of thousands of persons off the transportation grid and collecting in offices, because you would have heard in the past that office spread, workplace spread is one of the areas. At this time, we are not touching the workplace in the private sector.
Police Chief Gary Griffiths, meanwhile, at a press conference, warned that the measures would be vigorously policed.
We'll be monitoring all areas with the 1,000 plus cameras around the country to ascertain if it is that we are seeing persons congregating in en masse, if we're seeing vehicles parked in a certain place. So we will be intensifying our operational procedure as it pertains to ensuring that persons adhere to the regulations.
In St. Vincent, there are indications that the Argyle International Airport is expected to reopen tomorrow, Saturday, April 24. Media reports say the airport continues to make significant strides in the process of cleaning the aerodrome to ensure that all international standards to accommodate aircraft are achieved. Airport authorities have announced that full operations will commence from Saturday. However, passengers are being cautioned that cleaning will be ongoing as ash persists in the atmosphere and is continuously redeposited on the compound. Meanwhile, the UE Seismic Research Center has given a reminder that explosions can happen without warning during the ongoing eruption. It has now risen to above 8 kilometers into the atmosphere. The SRC says most of the material seems to be going out towards the Caribbean Sea. It adds that the South and neighboring islands will not be affected. There have been some emotional returns home. One Sandy Bay evacuee was clearly traumatized.
I don't know where to start. To be honest, I don't know where to start. I never expect this in the first place. I know in 79 I run from here when I was small. But seeing this is not easy. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. But I thank God for life, that I'm still standing. But it hurts.
I am really sorry, you know. As you say, you didn't expect this.
No, not at all. I didn't expect it like this.
How long you lived here?
Well, for all my life, from ever since I was a child, I have to say. I live here all my life. But it's real heartbroken.
And a British reporter who was given a tour to the dangerous red zone accompanied by Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves and other officials had this question for him.
The government in the UK have initially only given £200,000. There's been criticism about that from the Caribbean community in the UK. They say that's not enough. What do you say to that amount of money?
Let me put it this way. The noblest form of solidarity is not to give from the surplus that you may possess, but from the little that you have. That is a guiding principle. And whatever we get from anyone, we thank them and we thank Almighty God. I am sure that the British government will continue to partner with us, as they are doing on several things. Our High Commissioner is in touch with the British government, and they are looking at ways and means in which they can help further.
The harmful effects of climate change are growing, and the cost of mitigation and recovery is being counted in human lives and livelihoods. That was the message shared by Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown as he on Thursday addressed the United States-sponsored Summit on Climate Change. Brown said small developing countries like his and others in the Caribbean continue to suffer because the bigger nations responsible to a large extent for the global climate situation are not pulling their weight to rectify the situation as they should.
The economic situation of our countries was already grave before the COVID-19 pandemic. It is now dire, particularly for tourism-dependent nations. We are literally teetering on the edge of despair. Over the years, the debt of small states has risen to unsustainable levels because of repeated borrowings to rebuild and recover from continuous debilitation by natural disasters arising from climate change. Mechanisms introduced by the international financial institutions, the IFIs, for addressing the looming debt crisis are insufficient.
In Dominica, both the acting director of public prosecutions and lawyers representing Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit and his cabinet members are within their rights to request a disclosure of the witness statement and documents intended to be introduced as evidence in the treating case coming up in May. That clarification by acting DPP Shuma Dairampo. She'd also requested a list of the intended witnesses to give evidence and says it's in the interest of fairness and justice for both sides. Acting DPP Dairampo was speaking to Nature Isle News.
The treating matter is a private criminal matter which has attracted public interest over the past few weeks. As such, by virtue of the powers bestowed upon me as Director of Public Prosecutions by Section 72 of the Constitution of Dominica, I wrote to the complainants in this matter requesting disclosure. These letters left the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions on the morning of the 16th of April 2021. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is an independent and impartial office. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is not working with anyone in the treating matter or taking instructions from anyone in the matter. I am simply operating within the confines of the law by making such a request. I must also add that in criminal matters, litigation is not done via ambush. You have to disclose. So the parties in any matter have the right to request disclosure.
In other news from Dominica, the Magistrates Court in Dominica have imposed heavy fines on 19 Indian nationals, 10 male and 9 female, who were arrested and charged for breaches of the country's Immigration Act by overstaying on the island. Court information revealed that the Indian nationals arrived legally on the island via the Douglas Charles Airport between February 21, 2021 and March 21, 2021, and they were all granted permits to stay in Dominica for a period not exceeding 3 weeks. However, on April 17, about 11:30 a.m., acting on intelligence, the police intercepted a bus on the E.O. Libla Highway at Dublin with the 19 foreign nationals. They were arrested and later charged with overstaying. They all pleaded guilty to the offense and fined $3,000 each to be paid forthwith in default 2 months in jail. The court also granted a request from the prosecution to have them deported after. They are yet to pay the fine and are presently inmates at the Dominica State Prison. Attorney at law Wayne Noddy represented the 19 foreign Indian nationals.
Nature Isles Carlisle John Baptist.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. A group of vaccine experts advising the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are meeting today. Members will discuss the use of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports the committee plans to vote on whether to resume use of that vaccine after a nearly 2-week pause.
The group is the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP. It's made up of 15 voting members, mostly doctors who specialize in vaccination. In the meeting, they'll hear from Johnson & Johnson and federal health officials who will present a detailed risk-benefit analysis on the use of this vaccine. About a half dozen people have gotten blood clots, mostly in the brain, along with low blood platelets within 3 weeks of getting the shot. At least one person has died. That's out of some 7 million vaccinations, so it's very rare. The experts will hold a vote on whether to change the recommendations of who should get this vaccine. They may decide to add a warning about this potential side effect. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
The online World Climate Summit convened by President Biden has resumed. Speakers today will include union leaders from electrical and steel industries, as well as billionaires Bill Gates and Mike Bloomberg. India's overwhelmed health system is struggling as the country faces the highest daily number of coronavirus cases reported in the world. As NPR's Lauren Frayer reports from Mumbai, the situation has become even more dire after a hospital fire in a Mumbai suburb.
More than a dozen COVID-19 patients died overnight when a fire broke out in the ICU of a hospital in a suburb of Mumbai. Across India, dozens, possibly hundreds more have died in hospitals that are running out of oxygen. One big hospital chain tweeted that it has less than an hour's worth of oxygen left. A special train carrying medical oxygen is racing from southern India northward to the worst affected cities.
NPR's Lauren Frayer in Mumbai. French fishermen have blocked several shipments of British caught fish. As Rebecca Rossman reports from Paris, the fishermen say they've been waiting for months for licenses to fish in British waters, a post-Brexit requirement.
French fishermen used wood pallets and barrels to block 2 trucks worth of fish caught in British waters. Around 80% of fishermen in Boulogne-sur-Mer, Europe's largest seafood processing center, say they still haven't been issued licenses that would allow them to keep fishing in British waters. The new license requirement is part of the post-Brexit trade deal. Representatives from France's fishing union said they expected the licenses to be issued within days of the Brexit deal, which was signed more than 4 months ago. For NPR News, I'm Rebecca Rossman in Paris.
On Wall Street, the Dow was up 178 points at 33,994. The Nasdaq is up 130 points. This is NPR. An insurer for the ship freed from the Suez Canal last month is filing an appeal in an Egyptian court. It's an effort to release the vessel once again. NPR's Amy Held reports the ship, its crew and cargo have now been seized by Egyptian authorities, demanding that the Japanese owner pay up.
Once again, the Ever Given can't move, now in limbo of litigation. After an international effort saw the massive ship finally float free on March 29th, it was moved to a nearby lake. And there it remains. The Suez Canal Authority has seized the ship, demanding more than $900 million in compensation for the trouble, divided roughly into thirds, one for the tugboats and dredging used in the operation, another for lost revenue during the 6 days it was stuck, and lastly for, quote, reputational damage to Egypt. Also being detained, 23 of the ship's crew members and 18,000 cargo containers filled with items ranging from electronics to clothing. The ship's UK insurer says its appeal will be heard May 4th. Amy Held, NPR News.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The WinFM Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and Development Bank.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to American
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Everyone struggles at times. Even we too have our own struggles. Do you have a loan at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and have fallen behind on your payments because of financial difficulties? Have your financial situation changed? If your answer is yes, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis or call 465-2288, extension 1101 or 469-5416 to make an appointment to discuss our debt evaluation and restructuring plan with one of our qualified officers. We are committed to working with you to make a sustained positive difference in your life.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Everything's gotta go. Horsford's Automotive, everything gotta go. Clearance sale is happening now. All 2018, 2019, and 2020 models gotta go. Yes. Come to Horsford's Automotive and get $10,000 off select 2020 models. That's right. Horsford's Automotive is making room for 2021 by offering $10,000 off select 2020 models. And that's not all. Come now and get 0% down payment. No payment until May 2021. $500 in free groceries, free servicing for 1 year, free bill of sale, free tinting, free registration, free accessories, and free licensing. Horsford's Automotive, everything gotta go clearance sale. The biggest clearance sale event of the year. Select 2020 vehicles, price to go. Everything gotta go. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Well, hi there. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for choosing Win FM 90.9. Of course, this segment comes to you. Compliments Horsewoods. Our numbers are 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. It's World Book and Copyright Day. And before the internet came along, and before we could travel, we used our imagination. Books took us all over the world. And these days you can actually have talking books now. And books are talking. Interesting. You can drive and read a book at the same time. Did I say read a book? Well, listen to the book. Like reading it, isn't it? Or not? We're going to continue our coverage of World Book and Copyright Day in just a few. We've got someone on the line at the moment. Let's hear from our caller. And let's say a very good afternoon to our first caller's voices for today. Caller, good afternoon. You're live.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Backus.
Hi, Miss Henry. How are you doing today?
Man, you have been hampering me, man.
What have I done now?
The modern is not always the best, you know. It's Wednesday. You take up your good self. Go on to get a modern telephone system. And people can't get through.
What happened, man?
Kept saying that they operate the receptionist is not at her desk.
Oh, boy.
Press once for the whole day. Poor. They want talk to the weary.
Oh, boy. I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, terrible, man. And I think the same thing people trying to get in even on the tea time show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the morning show.
Yes, so please, whoever mess up your thing.
All right.
You want legal representation?
I think we're doing quite well in that direction, but we have some issues that we have to sort out, and we'll work on them because we want to keep you happy, okay? So we'll work on those things.
Yeah, you got to keep your listeners happy, man.
Especially listeners like you, Miss Henry. You're a good and faithful listener, man. You've been here since I was a young man.
When was that? Lord, deliver me.
So what's on your mind?
Age gracefully.
So what's on your mind today, Miss Henry? Let's talk a little bit. Let me ask you a question or two. Books. Did you love books early, and what got you?
I was a bookaholic.
What got you glued to books? What happened to you?
Why, since I way small, even when I couldn't afford a book. You know, but in the old time days, I grew up in Haysmith Village. And right next to it is Portland, where the rich people live, right? And, the school boys would work gardener. In those days, rich people and so had gardeners, And my brothers would bring home the plate that they trout, the cartoon, Woman's Weekly. You know what I mean? When they would throw them out in the garbage.
Yes. But I started reading Louis L'Amour. Do you know about Louis L'Amour?
And I could not eat I was well known in my village, but I could not eat unless I had a book in front of me. The food just didn't taste right. So from early o'clock, I love books. I have been on the radio trying to get some people to come and get free books. Boy, my house is like a library. My children, I take them to the library, join them in the library. At an early age, I think some of them as early as 6, they weren't even old enough, And just how I would go to the library and take out 2 books, my children. And it helps with your language, your imagination.
Well, I want to ask...
Reading is good.
I want to ask advice on something, right? I want to ask advice on something. You ready?
Listen, man, listen.
Okay, all right. So you should take your kids to the library. I did the same with my kids as well. And many other people have done the same with their children. Now that the library is on the phone, what advice do you offer in terms of taking your children to the library?
Well, they could do like what I did after I download Kindle.
Yes.
and bought books. So on the Kindle, they have all kind of ages. So if my children, they still love to read, they buy novels, and these are good. Well, my son was not a big reader. I remember the Hardy Boys, had a whole set. But he loved any kind of science book.
Nancy Drew.
I used to like, I remember reading of the whole West Indian section in the public library. All the West Indian writers, Naipaul and all, the whole gamut. I like intrigue and whatnot. And I love history. You know, in story form.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, man. And look, a lot of these books on Kindle free, you know. A lot of books on Kindle free. So you don't have to buy everything. They have a lot of free books.
But what would you say to someone who would ask you, why should I read?
Reading expands your imagination. You could give your whole vision, a different vision of even your life, because your life might be dreary and boring. You know that how they saw the Mills and Boone?
Yes, of course.
Where the girl loved the boy and you know?
Yeah, that was before Young and the Restless, right?
Man, all who never had boyfriend. I remember in school, somebody had a Mills and Boone, you know, and this other lady, what her name was again? All the love story that you never experienced, you lived it out in books. So books gave you a view into a life other than what you were having. So it opens your, and it increases your vocabulary. That I would say. You learn words. You know, so I make, and from the time you're born, I buy a book for you, you know. Start with the alphabet, the Ladybird books. So I would encourage people to read. Like now, I read politics, economics, development. Well, of course, I read the Bible, you know. Do a lot of research in the Bible. So I encourage people to read the Bible. People talk about it, but they have not read it. When you read it, you learn so much stuff. You know, so there's a lot. You know, people who don't read, their imagination is stunted, you know. You don't think so?
Well, it has a lot to do with the environment you're in. But I quite agree with you completely that books basically allow you to develop your imagination, allows you to travel.
Yeah, man, you go all kind of London and you read this thing in London and all over the world and in your mind as you read it. Because I usually write, but my lack, my own lack, that kind of thing. I do my biography. But, you know, when you read these things, you feel like you're part of the play.
Well, do you think we still use the language the way we used to before? I mean, part of reading was to expand your vocabulary.
Well, some do, you know, because like in all the schools, they do literature. At least first and second year. And they get to read a lot of the West Indian thing, even some of the English novels. But it is, you see, if parents read, children are more likely to read. So you can begin by reading to them. And, you know, even when mine are teenagers, and at university, I would buy a lot of Jamaican dialect books and stuff. My children, 20, in their teens, you would see us by the dining table, and I would be reading to them because that's how I grew up. My mother used to subscribe to the Labour Spokesman. And we would sit down on this step, and we would read for my mother. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you learn a lot of stuff. That's why I don't have any problem. Anything I could tackle. When my children in school, I read their books. All the way to university, I read their books. So when they ask, I'm able to converse with them. You know, so you don't get left behind. But I want to encourage people, if you don't want to read a hard copy book, go to Kindle and there are a number of free books, you know. There are a number of areas where you can get free books, but Kindle allow you to choose the books you want. Sorry, now I can't. My tablet dead. You know, so but you could listen to some on YouTube. But I used to enjoy my Kindle because there were so many books, so there's no excuse. And as you say, if you have an audio book, you can put down the device and listen to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can drive.
You know something?
You can drive and listen.
Something maybe you could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the old time days, maybe not so far back, I think ZIZ used to play some thrillers on the radio. You know, Alfred Hitchcock and that kind of thing.
Oh, yes. That was something that I wasn't in St. Kitts at that time, but I can tell you across the Caribbean, in Guyana, where I'm from in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados.
When 5 o'clock also come, everybody boy put on the radio to hear how the story goes.
Yes, we had a lot of...
And then sometimes the books were available in Law's Bookshop. And I must commend Wall's Bookshop. That is where you could get the novels and stuff, you know?
And we had game shows as well on radio, because I think in those days radio was king, wasn't it? You had things
but we could make radio king again, you know? Because you see, sometimes we assume, sometimes you got a lot of slots, empty slots. The other day I was saying, you know, they have Caribbean things because I get them on my phone because I have to use the phone now. And people read. They discuss books and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
I used to watch, the Tech House C-SPAN. Every Saturday, they used to have the book review on C-SPAN. C-SPAN too?
Yes. I used to look at a few of them myself.
Man, I used to just listen. You hear the books and the authors, and they say why they write and the feelings, and they got... The thing is to motivate me. So, Miss Pat Walter, if you could please put back on C-SPAN too.
All right.
No, you know, but so you yourself, you know, think about it. They got free things that you could broadcast because, I mean, you might excite the young people again. It's excitement they want, right? You get modern stories and so. Some of them need a little Mills and Boone, you know. They need a little Mills and Boone to learn about romance, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, then. So please to get your phone system going.
Yes. I promise you I will work diligently at fixing that problem.
And stop frustrating your listeners.
No, we don't want to do that at all. No, I apologize again. All right?
You're humbly.
All right. Thank you so much.
Then, God bless.
God bless. Thank you so much for calling. Talking about the books again. Books, of course, provided, travel without you leaving anywhere, just your imagination taking flight. Then, of course, with the audiobooks phenomenon now, you can actually have a book in your headset, and rather than listen to music, and I love music, so I'm not knocking music. I'm not saying you have to pick one or the other. You can do both. There are times you can listen to a book while you're driving, while you're exercising, while you're out in nature. And still have a great time. And you got poetry, you got all kinds of stuff now available that you can actually move around and be listening to it. You don't necessarily have to stop and read it. But those who love to read just want to feel that piece of paper sometimes in their hand. They want to, they want to hold it, they want to feel it. So, it's World Book Day, and World Book and Copyright Day is the right description for the day. You tune to Win FM, it's 90.9 in your dial. I'm going to bring you some more coverage of World Book and Copyright Day. Here's a presentation from Miss Chantal English, and it's coming up right now, right here on Win FM 98.9.
Today, we have with us Miss Chantal English. For today is World Book and Copyright Day 2021. This is a UNESCO Media Literacy Alliance initiative, and this day starts off the week of Intellectual Property Week, capped off by World Intellectual Property Day next week on the 26th. So Ms. Chantal English is a copyright and related rights manager and a Jamaican intellectual property officer. So, Ms. English, thank you for being with us this morning to speak about this day, because I think this is a topic that both TNT as well as the region might not necessarily understand, and to some degree we take for granted. I'll make a little joke here, Pirates of the Caribbean might not be such a faraway concept sometimes when it comes to certain intellectual property. So could you just start off by just... I'm
sorry, did you just reference Pirates of the Caribbean?
Well, of course.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Could you just start off to tell us, like, what are the concerns, or what do you see? Do people really take it for granted with regards to copyright and intellectual property rights? I mean, of course, you could speak primarily on Jamaica, but also to some degree for the region as well.
There are persons who would take it for granted, and that's because they don't understand and appreciate the importance of intellectual property. What I have experienced is that when we educate the public on intellectual property matters, you realize that there are many persons who would believe that once a work is available on the internet, that they have all rights to use that work. And upon educating them, they would change in terms of their behavior, in terms of their practices. They will call and ask how they can collate with or collaborate with the different licensing bodies in Jamaica and to obtain license to use their work. And so even so in this pandemic, we got a number of calls in Jamaica surrounding that, persons who were concerned about the use of works and whether they were infringing copyright. Many of them were, but they were not sure, and so they reached out. And so the problem continues because of lack of education. And so at JIPO, we continue to promote intellectual property rights, because we believe that if it is that we promote IP rights, then persons will become aware. So sometimes it's a matter of not being aware of intellectual property rights, why persons would tend to want to infringe.
Ms. English, could you just inform us, as it relates to intellectual property rights, what areas see the most litigation?
That would perhaps have to be probably trademark. I would say trademark. Primarily in Jamaica, we don't see a lot of infringement as it relates to copyright, or many hasn't been, gone to court, but we've seen quite a few as it relates to trademark, different hearings and so forth. But I would say that the most, in terms of infringement, would be the trademarks.
One of the local areas for us in Trinidad with regards to intellectual property, of course, is the works of artists, whether it is singers, performers, painters, graphics designers, etc. Now, Jamaica has a pretty strong music industry with regional and global appeal, as well as we just had Storm Salter, the director of Sprinter. And the film industry in Jamaica seems to be that there's something there, right, that could be very special. And of course, film is a major intellectual property area. Have you noticed any issues with regards to your local artists? Because we're talking international standards now of the quality of content that could come out and has come out. Has there been any issues there that you could speak to? Like, how does it go?
Okay, as it relates to local artists, so we'd have many artists contacting the office, trying to ascertain copyright information in terms of, their protection. How are they protected? How can they prevent other persons from using their work? Because at the end of the day, persons might have different careers, but we have to recognize that this is their livelihood. This is what they have chosen. They are creatives. And so they would seek to clarification in terms of how can I protect myself? How can I in the future ensure that I secure my monetary values? I have my estate properly taken care of. And so at Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, we usually encourage them to also think about their last will and testament, because as a copyright owner, your asset is valuable, your musical work is valuable. This is where you earn from, your artwork is valuable. As a performer, you're also valuable. And so we encourage persons to also work with the collective management organization in Jamaica. We have the Jamaica Music Society, which is JAMS, We have JCAP, Jamaica Association of Composers, Authors and Publishers, and we also have JAMCOPY, which is Jamaica Copyright Licensing Agency. So we have different collective management organizations in Jamaica that seeks to serve those musicians to ensure that they receive their royalties. So when they register with them, they can collect on their behalf. But at JIPO, what we primarily do is the registration of copyright. We know that copyright protection is automatic. So what we offer is a voluntary deposit of the work. And so when persons deposit at the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, they receive a certificate. And so in the event of an infringement, they can take the certificate to court. And this is where they can show that they came to our office and they deposited their work. And so it served as more of a safeguard to the artists. Because previously, when we tell persons that copyright protection is automatic, all you need to do is to put the notice and that's it. They'll be like, that's all. And so we had to think about how best we can give something in paper, because not sure if it's the same with Trinidad, where persons like to have something in their hand as a paper to say, this is my proof, this is my evidence, this is my work. And so in Jamaica, we had that challenge. And so in 2015, with the Copyright Amendment Act, came the voluntary deposit of works for persons who are in the creative industry. And so persons have been utilizing this voluntary deposit, and they feel very special, very accomplished when we issue the certificate to them. And persons have used it as their evidence. And one recent experience is where someone had used individual's work, and because they were able to show that they deposited the work with us at JIPO, they took down, the person who was infringing took down the work upon seeing the certificate. And so I believe that as creators, it is important to safeguard your work. Your work is valuable. Artists, singers, musicians, your work is valuable. And so it's important to take a necessary safeguard to ensure that your work is protected.
Now, in terms of the growth for both regional national development, by extension the CSME, how does intellectual property affect economics, connectivity, growth? How important is it to such factors?
Okay, so intellectual property is very, very, very important, and primarily because everything around you is intellectual property. The phone that we use on a daily basis, that's IP. Our computer, intellectual property, we're looking at patents. We are reading a book, that's copyright. We are looking at trademarks to identify your brand, that's a trademark, you're identifying your brand. A particular element, aesthetic appreciation of that element, that's a design. And so intellectual property is so extensive. When we wake in the morning, we see intellectual property. We're woken by either the fan, the AC, the light bulbs, everywhere, books that we read, the cars that we drive, the kettle that we use to make our tea, everything. So everything around us is intellectual property. And so intellectual property is very valuable. Without intellectual property, we really wouldn't be surviving. We'd just be having a bland world because there'll be no creativity. And so because of how valuable it is, it's important for it to also be commercialized and for the creators of the work to also benefit and to understand that they are sitting on gold. So many persons have a lot of talents and skills, and because it's not the normal, say, doctor, lawyer, engineer career that persons would rate high, there are some persons who think it's not as valuable, but intellectual property is valuable, and persons should invest, creators should invest and take necessary steps to ensure that they protect themselves and protect their rights, because IP is valuable. It's a valuable asset. And even in Jamaica, we're actually working on a project where we can allow banks to now accept intellectual property as assets. And so usually when you go to a bank for loans, you would need to show that, hey, I have a car or I have certain things. No, we're working on a project where persons can look at your intellectual property and recognize that as an asset, because in fact, it's an asset that can help persons promote them and make them into better persons and also build their wealth.
So intellectual property can be used as collateral. Intellectual property can be used as collateral.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing, isn't it? Wow.
I mean, one of the interesting things that I wasn't aware of too often, I believe Peter Minshall for one of these ceremonies. It could have been for the Olympic Games. He created that inflatable blow-up.
Yes, they call it the crazy man.
The crazy man, right?
The crazy man, yeah.
I don't know if he actually has the rights to that idea. He is acknowledged as the creator. I don't think he has the copyright or the patent for the product, which now is being used as a promotional tool.
It's also similar to Trinidad and the steel pan, isn't it?
Similar to Trinidad and the steel pan. And I mean, for a national instrument, with your words there, you know, the importance of holding the rights to what you identify as your own.
Right.
But so let's get into today. Today, April the 23rd, is World Book and Copyright Day. I believe, of course, those two things go together. It's both about educating people about copyright, but also to encourage individuals to read a book. And I would assume this would be a physical book, perhaps. But the theme of today is to share a story. So could you just kind of enlighten our viewers what exactly is this day, the start of a week, but this day specifically is all about?
Okay. So UNESCO World Book and Copyright Day, as you rightfully mentioned, today is Share a Story. And so at the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, what we will be doing today is that at 10 o'clock this morning, I think that would be 11 o'clock your time, we'll be having a webinar. And the topic of the webinar is creating copyright compliance through access, the Marrakesh Treaty. And the Marrakesh Treaty focuses on persons who are visually impaired, persons who are blind, or persons who are print disabled. And so this year we want to focus on that community. One of our activities that we'll be doing this afternoon at 2 p.m. is that we'll be reading to the children from the Salvation Army School for the Blind. And so in tandem with the theme, Share a Story, we will be sharing a story with those children from grade 1 to grade 8. So we have a number of persons who will be participating this afternoon in our session. We have representatives from the Jamaica Local UNESCO Organization. We have Ms. Dolary Hopkinson, so documentalist. We have individuals from the BIJ, the chairman, Ms. Latoya West Blackwood. We have Ms. Carol Newman, who will be representing from one of the collective management organization. She is the general manager for Jamaica Copyright Licensing Agency, that's Ms. Carol Newman, and we have representative from the disabled community, Ms. Gordon White, Vice Principal from the Salvation Army School for the Blind. I will also be presenting on behalf of JIPO, focusing on the Marrakesh Treaty for the disabled community, persons who are visually impaired, blind, or print disabled. And we will also have a representative from the World Intellectual Property Organization, that's WIPO, Mr. Matar, who will be speaking as well on accessibility to works. Because one of the things that we recognize is that we want to share a story, but we don't want to limit our story to just persons who don't have a disability. We want to ensure that everyone has access to copyrighted material. And though we understand that there must be a balance with the use of copyrighted material, the Marrakesh Treaty is one of the latest treaties issued by WIPO in 2013, focusing on allowing or making access to published works to persons who are part of this community who would need to have the work in an accessible format so they'll be able to understand and to be able to receive information as anyone else. Yep. And so today we want to share that story with those children.
It's interesting that you bring up that topic as it relates to accessibility, because my next question would have been in relation to disabled individuals. Is there any form of, would you say, discrimination or inequality as it relates to intellectual property rights and for those who are disabled?
Okay, so one of the challenges is that persons would not always readily have access to the material. And so that's one of the reasons why the Marrakesh Treaty is so important, because it facilitates, it allows an authorized body or an agent to act on behalf of a beneficiary who is able to do certain things that they would have to otherwise ask the copyright owner permission to do. For example, to copy the work, to issue the work to the public, to broadcast the work, to make the work available on the internet, or to make the work available on which is to make the work available on demand. And so these are some things that the Marrakesh Treaty allows certain exceptions for persons within this category. And so in order to be in line with United Nations principles, we want to be ensured that in Jamaica, we have these provisions that are able to help and to facilitate this community where persons do not feel discriminated or feel that there's a sense of inequality because they have a disability. And so we are working hard at JIPO to ensure that everyone in Jamaica have equal access to materials. And we have also included in our recent amendments in the Copyright Amendments Act 2015, print disabled. So we have included some of the provisions from the Marrakesh Treaty in the legislation, in our amendments, 2015 amendments. And we also, the Marrakesh Treaty is limited to persons who are blind, visually impaired, or print disabled, but we have also moved a step forward where we have also catered for the deaf community, and it makes reference in the legislation as hearing disabled persons. So we're doing our best to ensure that there is a level of equality. With everything, we know that there will be an imbalance because in a society that sometimes is not always fair, but we try our best to ensure that we have legislation, we have provisions in place to protect those persons who would be affected or who would lack access because of no fault of their own. And so we endeavor to try to put things in place to assist them.
So today, being World Book and Copyright Day, this is part or the start of a week, right?
Yes.
Intellectual Property Week. So on the 26th, that's next week, Monday, is actually World Intellectual Property Day. So of course, the 2 days seem very similar. But this whole week now, well, when I say this, it'll actually go into next week as well, correct?
Right. So our celebration begins today, April 23rd, through to May 2nd. On Monday is World Intellectual Property Day. And our focus, the focus this year is intellectual property and SMEs, that's small, medium-sized enterprises. But in Jamaica, we recognize that we have micro businesses as well, so we incorporate them as well. So we have micro, small, and medium enterprises. And so we'll kick off the week. Well, we'll start with church service on Sunday, and we will. And funnily, in terms of the church service, we had some concerns about the church community. So there are persons who reached out to us, and those persons wanted to know if they were breaching copyright. And so we invited them to our webinar that we had. So our webinar was Copyright, COVID, and the Church. And so many persons were using music and playing music without having a license, not recognizing that they were infringing. So when they called the office and we were speaking to them and telling them about the infringement and so forth, so they are now trying to comply, and they've spoken to the collective management organizations, and so they feel better. So we believe it's also important to continue that communication, that relationship with them. And so we're starting off the week with those same representatives who asked us the questions, who we had the webinar with, and we're joining them in worship on the Sunday at Gaines AME Memorial Church. And then on a Monday, we'll be having a webinar, and that webinar we will be having the Executive Director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, that's Ms. Lilicare Bellamy. She will be giving an overview. We'll also have the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, that's Minister Audley Shaw in Jamaica, who will be speaking as well. We'll also have the Director of WIPO, who will be giving us a message as well. We have our Chairman, Ms. Debbie Salmon, who will be here, as well as representative from the EUIPO. So we have a really extensive program. And on that day, what is also very interesting is that we'll be launching an essay competition. So that's something for persons to look out for.
So I'd just like to clarify with regards to that webinar, because businesses, you know, we do business with Jamaica to some degree. Would Trinidadians and Trinbagonians, I should say, would be able to listen into that webinar to learn about, you know,
go by extension, the region.
Your intellectual property laws, because if we want to do business with your property holders, we would need to be aware. So would Trinbagonians and other Caribbean nationals be able to sit in on the webinar?
Yes, sure. They'll be able to sit in on the webinar. will be on Facebook Live. That's Jaipo Online. We'll be on Instagram. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be on Facebook, and we'll be on streaming from Zoom. So persons can join across the Caribbean. So persons can check out our Facebook page, or they can check out our website. All the links are on our website to all our events. So it's www.jipo.gov.jm. So the week's activities, they're on our website, and all information can be found there. For all the links, information on the speakers, everything can be found on our website. And if persons feel more comfortable, our social media platforms are also available.
Well, Ms. English, I'd like to thank you for your time, for enlightening us. I did not know that churches had to be concerned about licenses.
I didn't realize that myself. I was like, isn't that amazing? Actually, you're starting off the celebrations with the church service as well. So I think that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing the information with us this morning.
Right, so, I mean, we are more or less out of time, but it was an important conversation, and I hope that intellectual property rights in the region becomes a more robust and more exposed and well-known concept.
Yes, indeed, you're tuned to Win FM. It's 90.9 on your dial, just sharing some discussions on Book and Copyright Day. That's Chantal English, Copyright and Related Rights Manager, Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. That's JIPO. And she was speaking on Talking Point this morning, earlier today, hence a reference to this morning. We're going to hear from our partners in a moment, but first we have a call on the line. We don't want to keep the caller holding too long, so let's go to the phone lines now. A very good afternoon. You're live and on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Backus.
Yes, Mr. McMahon. Good afternoon, sir.
Yep. Don't know how important today this might seem to a lot of listeners, but to avid readers and people who are interested or who have intellectual property to copyright, I am sure they would be interested. In terms of the reading, I think there are two main reasons, maybe you can think of more, why people read. To acquire knowledge and for entertainment. And that being the case, we have to ask ourselves, is there a better way than reading to do both of those these days, right? The knowledge acquisition and the entertainment value. Unfortunately, it seems as if the answer is yes. As nostalgic as people like myself might be about reading, there are so many other media that you can turn to acquire knowledge and to entertain yourself. There are simulations, for instance, and other visual means. Okay? We don't have a writing culture here, I think, and so it's not surprising that we don't have a reading one as well. Or, well, don't know which goes first, the chicken or the egg, but the fact is we're deficient, I think, in both. Those people who are familiar with higher education would probably be familiar with the term publish or perish. And I think that needs to be inculcated further down in the lower echelons of education. You know, it needs to filter down throughout the society as well. I was listening to an earlier program on the station, and the point was made that you cannot copyright an idea. It has to be expressed in some tangible form. And so along with the math and the languages, I think kids should be encouraged to not only read other people's works and get a feel for their ideas, but also express their own as well. Okay? But it seems a dying art. If that's what it ever was, maybe it was a skill. I remember being able to read a novel in today's flat, and you know my fellow schoolmates, we had like a kind of competition going on, essentially, who could read the most in the shortest space of time. I don't know if that still happens, okay? But, you know, I think it was important because, yes, it might have been skimming. You don't read every word. You might have been skimming. But you got the salient points, you know. You got the gist of what was being said or expressed. And it comes in even more handy these days where, you can have information overload. You have to do a lot of filtering, a lot of sifting, okay? Otherwise, it becomes too time-consuming and tedious, okay? So I just thought I'd mention those points.
Well, I want to ask you a couple of questions as usual.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether there's been much of a change in terms of the need to hear from other people, the need to perhaps have a deeper perspective because you're only perhaps limited to your experience, and your experience would include what you read. So to what extent, my generation would have come up with a lot of oral history. If you want to call it history, well, that's up to you because it depends on who's talking, right? But a lot of it was in the calypsos, a lot of it was when the family gathered. They always had a storyteller in every family. Now I think with the reading and the movies and the internet, there's a lot of traffic, as you said, information overload. So my question is, how do we manage children in terms of getting them to explore self-development when there's so much traffic out there? Because, I was asking Ms. Henry early on, we took our children to the library, but now the library's on your phone. So how do you take the child to the library thing now with the current realities?
Well, there's nothing wrong in the library being on your phone, okay, as long as you go to it, right? The thing is you can go to so many other things on your phone, right? At least with the library, you're pretty sure you were going to a place that had high standards and, wholesome education, wholesome reading material. Now, a lot of it, you have to do a lot of filtering to get to that, all right? So it's not so much the location of the library, it's making sure that